Hello guys, welcome to Alibaba Cloud Apsara Clouder Cloud Computing Specialist Certification online course. In this course, we will talk about building a WordPress website infrastructure using Alibaba Cloud Resource Orchestration Service or ROS. The course outline provides you an overview of the course. It will consist of the following topics. What is Alibaba Cloud Resource Orchestration Service? How does an ROS template look like? We will describe the basic structure of an ROS template. We will then provide an architectural overview of the Alibaba Cloud resources that will form the WordPress stack and will be deployed using the ROS template. Before creating and deploying the ROS template, we will provide an overview of the ROS template used to deploy the WordPress infrastructure. We will then create the ROS template using the Alibaba Cloud Console and deploy the WordPress stack from the ROS template created in the previous step. What is ROS? ROS is a service that provides developers and managers with a simple tool to create and manage Alibaba Cloud resources. An ROS template is a text file in JSON format and can have any extension. Using ROS template, one can define their resources, configuration, and the dependencies between them, essentially deploying the infrastructure as a code. Alibaba Cloud ROS is very similar to Amazon Cloud Formation, and anyone knowing AWS Cloud Formation can adapt to Alibaba Cloud ROS very easily. Alibaba Cloud provides an ROS console, API, and SDK using which one can deploy and manage Alibaba Cloud resources. ROS is free of charge, and only resources created using ROS will be charged based on the selected plan. This chapter describes the basic structure of an ROS template. It consists of the following sections: the template format version, the description, metadata, parameters, mappings, conditions, resources, and outputs. Template format version. This is a required section of the ROS template. The current version of the template is September 2015. Description. This provides a description of the template and is an optional section of the template. Metadata. You can use the optional metadata section to include arbitrary JSON objects that provide details about the template, for example, layout information used for visualization. Parameters. Using parameters in templates can improve the flexibility and reusability of the templates. When creating a resource tag, template users can override the parameters in a template to create a resource which meets their business requirements. For example, a web application requires a resource tag containing one server load balancer instance, two ECS instances, and one Apsara DB for RDS instance. In this case, you can define the instance type in the template and also specify a default value. While creating a stack, you can select the instance type depending on the type of environment you are creating. For a development environment, you can choose a ECS.T1.small instance, while for a production environment, you can choose an ECS.C1.large instance. When you don't specify a value for the instance, it will take the default value defined. Mappings. It defines a multi-layer mapping table. With a built-in findInMap function, the corresponding value of the key can be found. In the resources and output section of a template, you can use the built-in findInMap function to obtain the mapping table value by providing the key. For example, you can find the image ID to be used for a particular region. The input parameter will specify the region param, Hangzhou for example, and the findInMap function can be used in the resources section to select the value of the image ID suitable for the region and whether you would like a 32-bit or a 64-bit version. Conditions. Each condition item is defined by functions and or not and equals. Multiple conditions are separated by commas. In this example, we define a condition which says create a production resource if the input parameter value is prod. If you look at the resources section here, it defines a resource type for the prod environment type. If the environment type is prod, the first data disk is of category cloud efficiency and the second data disk is of category SSD. If the environment type is not prod, then there's only one system disk attached to the instance that is of category cloud efficiency. Resources. Resources are the actual infrastructure components that are deployed as part of the ROS stack deployment. For example, VPC, ECS instances, server load balancers, security groups, RDS instances, etc. Resources consist of resource ID and resource description. If you define multiple resources, use commas to separate them. Resource ID is unique to a template and can be used while referencing the resource from other parts of the template. Type. Resource type identifies the type of a resource you are defining in a template. For example, an ECS instance, a server load balancer, or an RDS instance. Properties. Resource properties are additional options that can be specified for resources. For example, an instance type, region ID, image ID are the different properties available for an ECS instance. Following example provides you a snippet of a resource definition. If a resource property is not required, you can skip over it. However, certain resources have mandatory properties which need to be provided. A property value can be a text string, string list, boolean value, reference parameter value, or value returned by a function. If the value is a text string, it is included in double quotation marks. If the value is a string list of any type, it is included in square brackets. If the value is an internal function or reference parameter, it is included in parentheses. Outputs. This is the last section of an ROS template. In outputs, you can define the value to be returned when the stack query interface is called. For example, you can define the output of an ECS instance ID and then call the stack query interface to view the value. In the following example, outputs contain the instance ID and the public ID of the web server. The public IP will be used to access the WordPress site, hence it is useful to get its value from the output parameter. In this chapter, we will provide you with an architectural overview of the ROS stack that we will deploy using our ROS template. The infrastructure consists of a VPC or a virtual private cloud inside which we have an ECS instance that will host the WordPress application. The ECS instance will have an elastic IP that can be used to access the WordPress site. An RDS MySQL instance is deployed to store the WordPress data. The deployment of WordPress on the ECS instance is done using a bash script which runs at boot. The script will install Apache, configure it, download WordPress, configure the wp-config.php file with the username, password, and the RDS endpoint. The bootstrap script also connects to the RDS database and creates a WordPress database and the admin user. There are three types of users who will access this application: customers, content managers, and system administrators. The ROS template also creates security group that will allow public access to port 80, whereas port 22 that will be used by the system administrators will be restricted from the sysadmin locations only. In this chapter, we will provide you an overview of the actual ROS template that will be used to deploy the WordPress infrastructure. It consists of the mandatory template version September 2015 in this case. Next is the parameter section. Here we can see parameters defined for the VPC name, CIDR block, zone ID, image ID, data disk size, etc. While creating the stack, you can specify the VPC name, the CIDR block for the VPC, the zone in which the instances should be created, the instance type for the web server. So if we are deploying for a test site, we can go for a smaller instance type than we would do for production. Once the input parameters are covered, we define the actual resources to be deployed. Here we can see we are deploying the VPC, the vSwitch, which is a subnet inside the VPC. An instance comes with a system disk, but if you want an additional disk to store data, you can create an additional disk and provide the mount point for it. The user data section provides a way to execute scripts during instance startup. For Linux instances, bash scripts are supported, and for Windows, bash and PowerShell. A user's data script cannot be bigger than 16 kilobytes. We can mount a HDD, install a web server, install WordPress, and execute almost anything that a startup script can do during the system boot up. The security groups that control access to the resources are also part of the ROS template. Here you can see the ingress groups that allow incoming requests to the VPC resources and the egress groups that allow internal resources to access resources outside the VPC. The elastic IP that provides access to the ECS instance is created here and is associated with the web server. The database resource creates an RDS instance based on the database engine and the version defined in the input parameters. It also creates a database admin user and sets the password. The last section, but not the least, is the output section that provides values of the resource properties that have been created. A user can select which output value he would like to see. For example, if we create an elastic IP, we would need to know the exact IP address so that we can access the web server with this EIP. When we create an RDS instance and create a public connect string, the output section can print the value of the public connect string and allow us remote access to the RDS database. In this chapter, we will show you how to create an ROS template using the Alibaba Cloud console. To create the ROS template, log into the Alibaba Cloud console and go to Resource Orchestration Service. In the ROS console, go to My Template. Here you can see all the templates that have been already created. To create a new template, click on Create Template. To create a new template, you need to provide the template title, description, and the template source. For the template source, you can either enter the template from the console directly or from a URL. You can also edit the template with a visual editor available from the console. We will create the template directly from the console. We have opened an ROS template in using a text editor already. We will copy the content of the ROS template from the text editor and paste it in the ROS console. Once we enter the template content from the console, click on Verify. This will verify the template and ensure it is ready for creation. Once the template has been verified, you can click on Create to create the template from the console. The template has now been created successfully and can be seen in the My Templates section of the ROS console. In this chapter, we will show you how to create the WordPress stack using the template that we created in the previous chapter. We will create the stack from the Alibaba Cloud console. To create the WordPress stack, log into the Alibaba Cloud console, go to ROS and select My Template. Select the template that we have created and click on Create Stack. Select the region in which you would like to create the stack and click on Next. Here you can see a form with a list of parameters that we have defined in the template. The template is reusable and the parameters allow you to customize a stack based on your requirements. For example, you can select ECS.N4.small instance for a development environment, whereas you can select an ECS.N4.extra large instance for a production environment. The parameters start with a stack name. The stack name must be unique and cannot be changed after creation. Creation timeout is specified in minutes and is the amount of time the stack creation process will wait before it will time out. Rollback. If rollback is selected, all resources that have been created will be rolled back if a stack creation fails. The next parameter is the data disk type. Here we have selected cloud efficiency. However, you can select other disk types that are available like Ultra Cloud Disk or SSD. You can then select the VPC name, zone ID, the zone in which you would like to create the WordPress stack in, the CIDR block for the VPC, the image ID, data disk size, total disks attached to the instance, mount point for the disk. If you observe, few of these fields are already filled. These are the default values that we have specified in the template. You can select the instance type for the WordPress server and then set the password. You will then set the database name, the database engine, MySQL in this case, the engine version, and whether you want the database to be in a multi-AZ configuration. The database instance class will specify the instance type for the database. You can define the database storage size, the database network type, that is if you want the database to be accessed publicly over the internet or from inside the VPC through the intranet. You can then define the database username and password. Once you have completed entering all the parameters, you can click on Preview. ROS will verify that all the parameters entered are valid and provide a preview of all the resources with their properties that will be created as part of the stack creation. You can now click on Create and this will start the stack creation process. By clicking on Go to the event list will provide you details of the events that will be generated as part of the stack creation process. Clicking on Overview will show you the status of the stack creation. Clicking on Resource will show you the status of the resource being created. The resource creation has been completed. We will click on Overview and as you can see, the stack creation is complete. The output section will provide the values of the outputs that we have specified in the template. The EIP address, for instance, is the elastic IP that we will use to access the WordPress site. We will copy the EIP, open another window and enter the EIP. As you can see, this will take us to the WordPress installation page. Clicking on Continue will start the WordPress installation process. Here you can specify the title for the site, select a username for the WordPress admin, select the password, enter an email ID for the site admin and click on Install WordPress. As you can see, WordPress has been successfully installed. Click on Login and it will take you to the WordPress login page. In this tutorial, we have successfully created a WordPress infrastructure using the Alibaba Cloud Resource Orchestration Service. Hope you liked the tutorial and thanks a lot for watching.